talk about or share something a little bit more personal from my own life. I remember always growing up where I was often interested and curious to know how things are made, how things work, and so on. And then some time ago, I went through a very, very difficult time financially. And I realized the only thing that we get for free as humans is the air we breathe. Like even clean drinking water is not for free. And it got me thinking about economical systems. Where did it all start? What's the history? Where did the money originate from? What was the purpose of it? And there's a lot of history around it. And it goes back to taxes, how taxes were collected for the kings and queens and so on. And it was essentially a form of trade. But before money was introduced, often people would trade what they had. So somebody would trade their grain for spices, or they used to, that's how countries used to trade very, very long ago, as they would trade often their spices for fabrics or whatever the case might be, or for animals or livestock or so on and so on. And as much as the economical system is fantastic and it's helped us as humans evolve a lot, we've also become extremely dependent on it. Like, if you do not have an income, what do you do? Okay, so these are weird things to think about maybe for a lot of people. And sometimes people think, oh, they'll never find themselves in a situation like that. But I want to encourage you guys to start looking at your lifestyle, not in a judgmental way or anything like that, but start looking at how dependent we have become. Like, even if the internet goes off for an hour, we freak out. You know, like, what are we going to do for an hour long? There's no internet. And I'm not saying that we need to cut our ties completely, go live somewhere remotely off the grid, anything like that. No. I just want to encourage people to start looking at these systems and start looking at your own personal life, how you can become a little bit more independent from the systems and stuff like that. And for a lot of people, because of the problems that we've had locally with power and maybe water and stuff, a lot of people have become already off the grid. Like, they have solar, or they might have borehole or backup water, things like that. But I have started looking at basic stuff for myself. Like, I make my own face wash. I don't buy commercial products anymore. I am in the process of transitioning from my hair products into different type of products as well. Very basic products. So, for instance, when I started researching facial things like that, I've also realized that there's a lot of stuff on the market we don't actually need. And there's very, very great sales pitches and marketing materials and stuff that tell us that you need this. But the reality is there's a lot of stuff we actually don't need. Even with my hair care routine has quite simplified a lot, where I've also kind of realized that all this stuff is like countering each other, or it's the same thing, just with a different label on top of it, or in a different bottle, which we don't need. I've also started recently making my own homemade yogurt, and I must be honest, the mango one is my favorite. The one day I unfortunately made a mistake though, and I put a little bit of chili spice in, because I have heard that a little bit of chili spice with mango goes well. And I mixed the chili spice in and I tasted it. I'm like, I don't taste the chili yet. And I put a little bit more in, and I'm like, let me maybe let this stand. And the next day when I tried it, oh my gosh, it burned me so much. I can't handle it. Unfortunately, I had to chuck the half a jar of mango yogurt away. And I've also started growing my own little garden, and I've spoken a lot now because the gardening part has been quite exciting, and making plans on how to use recyclable materials to, and when you have a small space as well, to start growing a little bit of a garden. So we've started growing a little bit of our own vegetables and my own, okay, I'm struggling with some of the herbs though. Some of my herbs are doing great, and some of them I'm really struggling with, and I need to still get the hang of it, like the coriander and basil. Those two are been proving quite challenging, but my mint and my thyme is growing well. What other herbs do I have? I can't think right now. Anyways, and then we've got carrots going, and my tomato plants are starting to look great. I'm going to have a lot of tomatoes because when the seedlings start growing out, you need to thin them out. And I started feeling sorry for these little plants that are growing, so I started sticking them in other pots because they need space for their roots, so you can't have too many of them growing together. I've also started collecting, you know, like little milk bottles and little plastic containers so that you can sprout your own little seedlings. And I'm going to start looking in the next week or so. I am growing my own little mini greens. So you can add little flavorful things into your salad. So instead of growing your broccoli and beetroot, for instance, to full plants, you just let them grow little leaves, and then you snip the leaves off and you eat the leaves in between your salad. And apparently they're quite nutritious and also quite flavorful. So those are going to be quite interesting, playing around with these things and growing our own little spring onions and garlic and onions and so on. So it's exciting and it's a lot of fun doing these things. And for instance, I was saying to somebody the other day, we were in the mall over the weekend, and oftentimes when you walk in the mall, your senses are overloaded with things that you see. Okay, so there's a lot to see in the mall, and there's a lot of stuff you don't have. So let's just be honest, there's a lot of stuff in the mall we don't have. And oftentimes you would look at it and you're like, oh, that's quite beautiful, but then there's like this feeling of, I don't have that, you know. It's like, I don't have that either. And since I've been busy doing the focusing more on sustainable living and stuff, and looking at how much fun it is to make your own things, and then in the process realizing actually how little we need and how much we already have in our lives, without us realizing how much we actually already have in our lives that we don't need to constantly go to the shop and quickly buy this, quickly buy that. I started looking at these things. Well, you know, you can't avoid it when you're walking through the mall, so it wasn't a deliberate thing, but I started noticing these things, and then I'm like, oh, that's pretty, and then walked on, and oh, that's pretty, and walked on. And then after a while I realized, but there's a feeling of contentment, there's a feeling of fulfillment, that feeling that I used to have of like, I don't have that, or should I need, or do I need that, should I have that, should I budget for that? Those kind of feelings weren't there anymore, and that was quite amazing. So yeah, there's a lot of things. I've even started making my own homemade wax with sugar and water and lemon juice, and started doing my own waxing at home. So it's quite great experience, and I will be sharing a lot more stuff around it. But I want to encourage you guys to start looking at growing your own vegetable gardens. It can be something small, it can be something basic, it can be that one thing that you're constantly going out to the shop to go buy the fresh thing. And I must be honest, we still go to the shops weekly to go buy fruit because I don't have fruit trees. We still go to the shop weekly to go get the breads and the milk and stuff like that, and the eggs. So there's a lot of stuff that we still do purchase from the stores and stuff. So I'm not completely off the grid and against the shopping sprees and anything like that. But I do want to encourage you guys to start looking at living a little bit more less dependent on the systems and growing your own food. It really is a lot of fun, and it can be done in an economical way. It doesn't have to be all these expensive pots or anything like that. I've literally been using milk bottles and empty cold drink bottles, and I'm going to start growing potatoes soon in the leftover soil bags. Okay, so the composting bags, I've actually kept those plastic bags, and they will actually be suitable for growing potatoes in. Okay, so yes, it's a lot of fun, and once you start doing it, you will probably and hopefully start enjoying it a lot, and one thing will grow into the next thing, to the next thing, into the next thing. Okay, and with it, I've also started looking at newer recipes. I don't know how many of you, but you tend to get into the habit of always cooking the same thing. So now with growing my own garden stuffies and so on, I've been researching different recipes, which has also been quite a lot of fun, of trying different basic stuff. And again, recipes with the basic stuff that you have in your home. You don't have to go buy expensive ingredients or that, I don't know, spice or herb or whatever that you're never going to use again type of thing, because those can sometimes be frustrating when you're busy with a recipe and you have to go buy things that you're probably not going to use again, or you don't know how to use again. So yep, that is it for me. Go and grow your own vegetable garden. All right, bye.